Okay, welcome once again. I'm doing this video on Counterpoint, the value of Counterpoint, which I cannot stress enough for the composer as well as the musician and the jazz musician, the improviser, and even the bass player who wants to work on his walking lines, and the jazz bass player. Or if you're just interested in improvisation, this is an amazing way to construct lines. So let me just explain this. This is just a little taste of the third species, counterpoint, which is 4 quarter notes against the cantus on the bottom. Okay, the cantus is a fixed melody, modal melody. Now here we're using the Dorian melody, the Dorian mode, excuse me. And the idea is to compose lines against each cantus, each note of the mode. And using the guidelines, the counterpoint guidelines. So what we're going to do is we're going to just analyze what I've done here. What I did was I took an exercise from my book when I was studying, my staff notebook. I took a line that I had written and I kind of cleaned it up a little bit, made it better. And so now we're going to take a look at this. I'm going to make this a little bigger. So here we have the cantus in the bottom here is D, starting with the D. Now the idea is that the guidelines are that the first and the third beat must be consonants, which is perfect fifths, octaves, and thirds, and sixths. Dissonants, which are seconds, fourths, and sevenths, can only be used as passing notes. So if we look at the first note I have here, which is an A, okay, that's a consonant, it's a perfect fifth. That's how I start off, and then I'm going to the next note, which is G. I'm just going kind of, that's a passing note. Now G we know is a fourth, it's a dissonant, but that's fine because I made it as a passing note. So then we're going to an F, which is a consonant, and then to an E, a dissonant again, which is a second or a ninth. That's a passing tone, so that's fine. Okay, and it becomes it's just scalar, if you will. So the next measure, what I wrote against the cantus, which is in F now, we have D. Okay, and of course, following the guidelines, that is a consonant, and that is fine. Next note is called, it's a note below, is usually called the lower neighbor. And again we have the consonant perfect fifth. Moving on to repeating the D here, and then doing a skip. So a skip is when you jump into a second or a third. Well, actually a skip is just when you jump into a third, no more than a third. When you go beyond a third, it's called a leap. And you cannot leap into dissonances, you can only leap into consonances. That's another one of the guidelines. So here we have the F. I skipped into here. And let's just move on now to the next measure. What we have here, we have the cantus is now E. So and you want to, see, the idea is to try to make them fluid, try to make them interesting, try to keep different notes. You don't want to be repeating notes too much from one measure to the next. You want if you're going to have a repeated note, you want it spaced out. Okay, this makes for very tasteful and fluid sounding lines. So here we have the E cantus, and then I've written a G here. Sorry, an E, which is the octave, and I'm repeating the E. Moving on to the G, and then I have my passing note, which to the dissonance A. Okay, and then we're moving on. So this is the idea, and it's about. Let's move it. Let's move it back so you can see a fuller screen of the whole thing. So the idea again is to write to a fixed modal melody, which is about 11 measures here. Alright, and then you end, of course, on the D as a whole note. So just want to give you a taste of that, and I want you, maybe you can check this out. I'll play it and see how you can hear what it sounds like. Here we go. Oops, let's start that again. So here is the final. Alright, so as you can see, this is incredibly invaluable, because the idea, everybody, is not just there's a three component discipline to music. It is not just what you hear or just imitation. It's also, there's an intellectual component to this as well, which is what involves some of the counterpoint discipline. It's not all of that, but that's a part of it too. And this, you know, to write out lines like this is just, it's invaluable. And for instance, just like a bass player, now you also do this in the bass line. You also are there's another step where you're involved in writing not only lines in the soprano but in the bass against the cantus. So you have two voices against the cantus. But if you just concentrate, for bass players, if you just wrote one in the bass line, you can see now how you can learn how to construct bass lines on your own without simply, you know, the way I had learned was I would just get a book with transcribed bass lines and I would start playing them. Or I would listen to records, and that's good too. I listen to records and I'd imitate. And performing is a good way of learning too, but this is a whole nother level, because you're actually composing your own, and you're you know, using these guidelines to help you get fantastic lines, or to help you just learn this art. It's a great tool, and just want to end this so I don't go on too long here. And if you want to learn more about studying counterpoint, you can get in touch with me at my website at jamesluke.org, jamesluke.org. Thanks for watching.